But also, it's been a very important lesson for my clients who are influencers. What's the pivot?
Okay.
What is the pivot? And how do you truly monetize this influence for your own brand?
For sure.
So now you actually have a physical product that can sell while you sleep. Mailbox money,
right?
Which creates that revenue stream that does not solely depend on you as the person, you as the influencer, but it creates something that you can sell and continue to be able to monetize.
So I know most of you are familiar with influencers, influencer marketing, all the things that we're seeing as we're scrolling on, pick your thing, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. But y'all, the landscape is changing. And so I'm so happy that you are here for another episode of the Think Me Later Show with me, your host, Jini Thornton, so we can get some help on understanding what all this influencer marketing is and how they make money and what are the significant changes that are happening. And we have a subject matter expert in the space today, Miss Keisha Perry Walker. Hey, Keisha.
Hey.
Listen, I owe you a thank you because you are the person who introduced me to influencers and influencer marketing. So I want to publicly say thank you because, girl, I sure enough thought you was crazy when I first got that call from you.
Well, I don't know if you want to thank me or not. But,
I'm thanking you now, not later. I'm going to thank you now. But before we jump into this conversation, I want to make sure I do what's correct and make sure folk understand who they're hearing from today. So I want to share your bio and all the amazing things about you so they can put some respect on your name.
Some respect.
I know, on your name as we have this conversation. So again, everybody, our guest today is Keisha Perry Walker, who is the innovative principal behind the Perry Law Group, which is a corporate and entertainment law firm based in Atlanta, where she provides legal counsel to recording artists, producers, songwriters, managers, executives, entrepreneurs, independent labels, and obviously influencers as well. So some of her past and present clients include folks like Pinky Cole, Tashina Arnold, Tamika Tiny Harris, Plies, David Banner, DeArea Taylor, who we're going to have some conversations about today. Super excited about that. But one of the things that I love the most about her background is the work that she's done in the film and TV space. So she's been on the production legal side, on both sides, again, film and television, and just a real strategic consultant for her clients, and has done deals with big companies, major brands like the Coca-Colas and Sonys and Google and on and on. And thank you for coming in today and sharing your knowledge and your expertise with our community.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
So, girl, we're going to just jump right into this because I'd just like to take a minute and tell the story. I don't know what year this was. What year did you introduce me to DeArea? What do you remember about what year that was?
It was probably 2016.
Okay. So Keisha and I are friends, and part of this, our group is called The Collective, where we have formed a group of women in the entertainment industry. And those of us who are on the older side, our goal was to really, be able to pour in and mentor some of our younger folks in the space. And so known Keisha for years. And then she calls me one day and she's like, yeah, I want you to meet my cousin. She's an influencer. And I'm like, what? I'm literally like, a who? Like, she don't sing, she don't rap, she don't act, and she makes money doing what? And obviously I know you and trust you, but I'm like, this don't make no sense to me. Mm. I'm like, it does, and she has this many followers and she's doing this, just not calculating. And you were very patient with me. And you were like, will you at least just meet her? Will you meet her? Go to your office. And I was like, this girl is a star. Like, I knew it from the first time I saw DeArea. I'm like, this girl is a star. But I still could not comprehend that people could just be cute and fly and beautiful and post and get all these followers and make money.
Yes.
I was like, what is happening? So I'm assuming, and forgive me if I'm wrong for assuming, that DeArea was your entree into the influencer space, or did you kind of were you kind of legally involved in that space before?
No, that's how I got into it. It was not planned. It was, even for her, it wasn't a space that she was like, oh, I'm going to go and be an influencer. It was kind of thrown upon her. And because I'm the attorney in the family and I was already doing entertainment law, that's how it got thrust upon me too. Like, this was a world that I didn't plan for, she didn't plan for. I don't think you planned for it.
No.
Because the world hadn't planned for it.
Right.
It was just, again, that social media bubble that just popped that created a whole new lane. So, no, she was my first client. And because she got in it kind of on the forefront, that landscape, she's one of those people that have helped to pretty much outline that landscape and what it looked like in the beginning.
And so for people like, they kind of know what we're talking about, or they have some of their favorite people like DeArea that they love and they follow. How do people like her, other influencers, they make money doing what?
So an influencer, at the core of the definition, is a person that is able to influence or to sway what you're interested in, what you're buying. And because of the number of followers, so you have different levels, right? You have micro influencers, you have the mega influencers, and it's all based on the number of followers that you have. So for her, it started off as lifestyle, people liking her clothing choices, the aesthetics, how she carried herself. And it just so happened that her and the person that she was dating at the time, Ken, people just were interested in what they were doing. And because of that, it grew a following, and they started just posting pictures of them together on Instagram. And then somebody suggested that they move and create a channel on YouTube. While Instagram did not pay, you could not monetize it. On YouTube, you can. But this is the thing. So we have another cousin, Scooter, who had been monetizing YouTube before it was a whole thing.
Really?
Yes. And I remember him being in like junior high school. Right? So this was probably late 90s, early 2000s. He was just this kid that would do and upload like these tutorials about how to use a MacBook or how to use an iPhone. And he would monetize it back then.
It's crazy.
So then, full circle, you see how one person walks so another person can skip and run and keep going forward. But when I think about my cousin Scooter, he was doing this before these dollars that DeArea was generating. So it was already there. But yeah, YouTube had always been a space where it's kind of like, hey, based on the views, you could make money and things like that. So yeah.
And so what I hear you saying is then there are multiple streams of income. So they could be posting longer format content on YouTube and getting whatever residuals from YouTube. But then obviously they're posting on these other platforms and getting paid from brands for like, ooh, I use this, or I eat this, or I wear this, as another way to generate significant revenue.
It is. And so what you initially saw is a lot of the weight loss brands. They were the ones who would go after a lot of the cute girls. And, they would say, hey, I tried the whatever tummy tea or whatever the weight loss product is. And they would promote it in order to get other people to try it. And sometimes, depending on the number of followers, who your team and your representation was, you may just get free product. Right?
Girl, I forgot about all that weight loss stuff at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Those were the brands that kind of set, again, the landscape of, wait a minute. So we can go direct to consumer, right? Because if you think about a television commercial, they have the demographics of who is the range that watches this type of show. But it may not be as micro-tailored as it is with influencer marketing. because now it's almost like you're talking direct. So brands began to take money that they were spending on television, radio, in order to pay a fraction of this to influencers, and they were seeing a greater return on investment because now I'm speaking directly to my target audience. So that's how it began to, evolve and became this whole big industry where now you have everyday people who have turned into a micro celebrity.
For sure.
That's making money like celebrities. So it's just, hey, how do I get my brand to speak to the people who I really want it to speak to? And it's a closer bullseye than what it was before.
And so now, after several years of working with influencers, multiple influencers, obviously, I know there was, I always think about this in the context of music. Remember, you're like, back in the day. Remember?
Yes.
Back in the day. We were like printing money. We used to get deals. Are you sensing that kind of now in the context of influencers? Like there was this heyday of when your clients were just the most incredible deals. Feel like it's beginning to taper off a little bit now.
No, it has tapered off a big deal. And I'm not 100% sure where these brands are spending their money. Because again, based on how content is consumed from the film and television perspective,
they're not spending there.
It's not the same.
It's not there.
Right. And I know that deals that I'm negotiating where we would easily be able to say, okay, well, we're going to do what's called an integration or a dedicated video, and we can demand $35,000 to $50,000 for a 90-second spot. Now they're like, yeah, no, our budgets are like 15 for that now.
Wow.
So, it's a difference in how they're spending the money. And I don't know if the return on investment for them has changed as much as it's just like, hey, we're reallocating dollars, or given, where the economy is right now, they're just saving and not spending the same way. But I have not seen the trend of this is where it has gone as much as it is they've just cut.
They're just cutting. Mm-hmm. And about how long ago did you notice, like, the numbers are beginning to change?
I would say mid last year is when it became more than just one-offs.
Gotcha.
That's when it became more than just one-offs. And that's not to say that there aren't still brands that are spending money, but now they're asking for more. Right? Where I used to be able to say, okay, well, you only get an integration that's 90 seconds, and that's going to be $35,000, $40,000, depending on the influencer. Then that became, well, now we want an integration, a Instagram post and a TikTok repost, and all the ands continue to come for this amount of money. So again, for whatever reason internally, how they're allocating money. And I don't know if the decline in how people are interacting with social media, but also it's been a very important lesson for my clients who are influencers. What's the pivot?
Okay.
What is the pivot? And how do you truly monetize this influence for your own brand?
For sure.
So now you actually have a physical product that can sell while you sleep, mailbox money,
right?
Which creates that revenue stream that does not solely depend on you as the person, you as the influencer, but it creates something that you can sell and continue to be able to monetize.
So when I hear you say that, though, my initial concern is for these influencers or up-and-coming influencers, do they have the business acumen? Meaning, it's easy, you give me the brand, I can wear it, do my, my integration, whatever. But now you're like, girl, I got to create a product, and now I got to have distribution and this and that. Is the skill set matching what is required in the pivot?
For some of them, no. The reality of it is, for some of them, no. It's easier. I'm not going to say easy. It is easier in order to wear and post somebody else's brand, right? But entrepreneurship is no joke.
Right.
Like, and that's what you pivot into if you have your own brand. And having the right team around you that can help you to facilitate what that rollout looks like. And it's a full team when you are doing a brand. There is accounting, there's legal, there's marketing, there's supply chain. Like just thinking of all of these people, how do you get that from ideation to the consumer's hands? And a lot of people, not only do they not have the acumen, they don't even have the desire to learn it.
Right.
Which is why they get taken advantage of.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
So in the context of you talking about people taking advantage of, for those people out here who may be micro-influencers, they may have kids who are whatever it is, but they're like, ooh, we about to get to this money. we about to be posting and telling these stories out here. Where do you see people getting in trouble? Because I could see people like, oh, someone's offered me such and such. I'm just going to sign and go.
So I think that one of the most poignant lessons is the Kim K situation where she got in trouble with the Securities and Exchange Commission because she was posting about crypto.
Okay.
And a lot of times people do not understand that the Federal Trade Commission regulates how these ads, how you have to let people know what your affiliation is. But every brand is not as hardcore on notifying the influencers of, hey, you have to put that this is an ad or a partnership. You have to tell people what your affiliation is, because if you don't, you're violating federal laws. So a lot of people get in trouble with that because there is not the proper disclosure. The other thing is truth in advertisement. So whether or not what you are posting is deemed to be an advertisement. So going back to the tummy tea,
right?
That a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, but they really weren't using it."
I forgot about the tummy tea run. I'm so glad it was huge.
It was massive,
right? It was.
But you also had a lot of people who were promoting this tummy tea, but they were getting surgeries.
Okay.
Not
telling the truth.
Not telling the truth. And so I'm listening to the radio the other day, and they were talking about just the craziest lawsuits, right? And a man sued Red Bull for $13 million because the advertisement says it'll give you wings. He sued because it did not give him wings.
It did not get. He
and
took it
he
literally.
won.
Shut up, girl.
And he won. So I want you to understand. He sued them.
Oh my God.
Because he had the expectation that he really would get wings.
He would get wings.
And
it sure enough said that too.
$13 million. So now if you look at the Red Bull commercials, it says it'll give you wings, but it's WIINGS. Right? The point I make in bringing that up is, again, that truth in advertisement and just how those little small details, but it also made me feel like I ain't working hard enough, right? I told my mom, I was like, hey, we thinking about this thing wrong. Let me see who else then lied to me and see if I can't get $13 million.
Come through with the lawsuit.
But again, that's what was happening in a lot of these social media. And depending on the size of the influencer,
right,
people are coming back saying, I did this because of blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And that created problems. So again, people not understanding fully what it is they're getting themselves into, because it's still a business.
Right.
It's not a hobby.
Right.
It is still a business, and that business has rules and regulations to it.
Now, I'm sure with you being a subject matter expert in this whole influencer space, and as people have started, bubbling up, they starting to do well and bringing agreements to you, like, I signed this, I'm doing this. Like, what are some common things you're like, y'all, why are you agreeing to this? Like, what are some red flags for people to like really kind of pay attention to?
So there are a couple of things. When I first started in this area, there are what are called MCNs, which are multi-channel networks. And now you have a lot of record labels that use them in order to monetize and watch like artist songs that are placed on YouTube, et cetera. But when it came to the influencer world, the MCNs had their channels under them. They were the ones who were getting all of the AdSense dollars, which is the advertising money that comes from YouTube.
Right.
And for a lot of people, because this world was just like a phenomenon that nobody expected, they were signing and they didn't have representation.
Right.
And then when they were ready to leave certain ones of these deals, they couldn't. Or you had to remember, you have to terminate 60 to 90 days before the end of the contract. Otherwise, it automatically renews.
Right.
And it just keeps going over and over and over and over again. The other piece that I see for people who are not represented, who owns the content that you create? And that's another piece that I am hardcore on. If my clients create it, they own it. But also limiting the amount of time that they're able to use it and the how.
Right.
Because again, I know that there are people who have come to me and they'll say, well, I agreed to do a post for them, but now they're using this on their website. They're using this in an ad campaign. They're using this in BeautyCon. Did I agree to all of this? I review the contract and I'm like, actually, yeah, you did, because they own it. Well, that wasn't my understanding. Well, yeah. You misunderstood. But
at that point, you're too bad, so sad.
Yes.
Yeah. And so for the people out here who, again, interested in it fully, at what point do you need legal representation? Because I know at a certain point, people are like, I don't think I'm making enough money, or they don't want to pay for legal counsel. So they start making X amount of dollars, or there's no income.
So I think that when people come to me and they say, hey, I don't have the amount of money that I feel like I need to have to engage an attorney, I always akin it to, you don't go to the doctor every single time you cough, right? However, you have a doctor, for most people, your primary care physician that you can call when necessary.
Absolutely.
That's the same relationship that you should have with an attorney, right? And you may not be able to put an attorney on retainer for, 10 hours. However, it's always wise to at least be able to pay for an hour of an attorney's time so that you are able to say like, hey, I have a question about something.
Okay.
Right? And I know that with my firm, we allow, especially when it comes to influencers or small business owners or up-and-coming artists, you can come to us and pay for an hour consult, and we'll walk through these things with you so that you get the advice that you need, but it doesn't break the bank. So I tell people like, hey, the same way that you may not go to the doctor every single day, but you have somebody that you can call. You have to have that person that you can call. Otherwise, you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't have a team of people around you to teach you, it's going to come at a cost later. You're either going to pay it on the front end or you'll pay it on the back end.
And when I hear you say that, Keisha, I'm also just thinking about parents who have, these teenagers, young adults around them who are out here generating revenue. By, being an influencer. What advice would you have for a parent who may or may not be engaged or know a lot about what their kids are doing? Again,
I think that it comes down to how do you want to show up? And I tell people it depends on whether or not you want this to be a career or a hobby.
Understood.
If you are fine being broke, owning nothing, not monetizing it properly, cool, keep doing what you're doing. We spend money on hobbies. If you want it to be a business, you have to treat it as such. So for the parents who have children who are influencers, like, you have to guide them because it is new territory and terrain.
Right.
Just like in the film and television industry, if your child is under a certain age, you got to have a Coogan account.
Right.
It's that same type of diligence, because this can set up money for college or a down payment on a house or a car or whatever the case may be. But if it's not being properly managed, invested, and cultivated, throwing money out the window. So parents, it's one of those things that you still have to guide them.
Right.
And just like in other things, you know, I don't play basketball, but my son loves to play basketball. Well, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna teach him everything there is to know about basketball. No, I'm gonna go get a coach. I'm gonna put him on a team.
Right.
And that's the thing that parents have to know as well, like find a team. And I think that you should be involved. Even though DeArea is my cousin, when I started representing her, because she was 18
Right.
when she came into this world, I remember, even though, again, my first cousin, our moms are sisters, and I helped to raise her, even still, when it came to, all right, now we are going to get down to brass tacks when it comes to how I represent you, I brought her mother in, and I also brought Ken's mom in. Because again, I wanted them to be a part of that, so that it was, hey, you guys know what's going on.
For sure.
And you guys are able to independently advise them. But it's one of those things that even though they are young adults, they still need the guidance. And hopefully they have the caliber of parents that are looking out for their best interests.
Right. And one thing that I would just want to say to parents is this: even if you have no idea, you don't understand, it's above your head, technically, whatever it is, you still deserve a seat at the table.
Yes.
You should be on the calls. You should be participating in the meetings. You should be saying, I don't understand this. Explain this again. Because think about what's at stake. You would do it at school.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't understand the chemistry and the physics, all that other stuff that my kids were studying. But I'm like, I'm at the school. I'm out here trying to figure, you know what I mean? Helping them to navigate that. It's no different than in business. And I see parents, whether they are their children are in music or film and TV, where parents begin to shy away. I'm like, y'all better lean in.
And I think that is a little nuanced, right? Because depending on the relationship that a parent has with their child is also going to dictate that, right? But then there's the fine line, right? Because you have the parents that get the reputation,
right, for being difficult,
of being difficult and overbearing. But I also, you know, again, depending on the relationship that you have with your child, you're going to end up being the Sandman. You got to clean it up if it gets messed up, because most parents are like, you know, you may have to learn the lesson, but we still are going to be involved one way or the other.
Right.
And a lot of times it's a learning lesson along the way for them, but it's better to learn the lesson under the tutelage or, you know, the guidance of people who know it than to learn it the hard way.
Absolutely. Because some of that stuff can't be fixed based on what you legally agree to. You know, it may not be able to be undone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get those calls all the time where it's kind of like, I've seen my image, and I've even gotten calls where it's like, they're using my child's image.
Oh my gosh. Right. Right.
And I'm like, what did you sign? Because the kid didn't sign it.
For sure.
And they're like, well, can I just get them out of it once they turn 18? I was like, well, depending on the company, they still can go after you as the parent, because you signed on to say, hey, I'll make sure that this child performs their obligations. So a lot of parents are like, oh, well, I'll just wait. And then at this point, you know, we'll disavow the contract. Well, they still have recourse against you if you signed it.
Right. You know, and when I hear you, when I hear you talking, Keisha, I just keep thinking, because you think about social media, all the platforms, you just think fun and entertainment. I'm like, no, this is like real business.
A real business.
Like this is like real money, real contract, real terms. Anytime someone is putting something in front of you and they're like, read this, sign this, like it's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
You better read it.
You better slow down and get some help.
If you don't understand it,
yes. Please definitely get some help for sure. So, all right, we have another question from you from the Thank Me Later hotline. This is from Genevieve, who lives in New Orleans. And she says, I'm a finance influencer growing my followings across Instagram and TikTok and was wondering about managing financial constraints for legal costs. When working with a limited legal budget, where should creators spend it? Should they on contract review, IP protection?
I think that the answer to that question is based on where you are in your career.
Okay.
So as I was just talking about, it may be that if you're working on a limited legal budget, then every time you get a check, put an hour aside with an attorney because you can build it incrementally so that you're not getting hit all at once. Because there may be as your business grows in this space, you may get hit with several things all at once and you can't afford not to have an attorney across the board.
Right.
But what you can afford to do is, hey, I just got a check for, X amount from doing this. Now I'm going to say, all right, this is the attorney that I've identified that I want to work with. I'm just going to pay an hour at a time. And before you know it, you will have the money to do IP, contract review, and strategic counsel and advice.
Right. And I love that because when I hear you say that, to me, it's about making the investment. It's like continuing education.
Yes.
Like, why don't you have, as the money's coming in, you're allocating a portion of your income to get good legal guidance.
Yes.
So that way you don't have to spend money when you're already in trouble. It's already too late.
And this is what I realized. The bigger issue is a lot of people just don't know how to budget for business.
That's true.
They don't know how to budget for business. Right. They don't know how to allocate the buckets to say, okay, this is how much I'm going to reinvest into my business versus the desire to drain it and to take all of the money out of the business, because operating costs and expenses, they continue if you want your business to continue to thrive. And that doesn't matter if you are a service business or you have a product that you're selling. It continues to grow. So I think that, just as equally important as legal is, so is accounting.
Right.
And the craziest thing is, for a lot of people, they only think of accounting in terms of doing their taxes.
Taxes, for sure. At the end. Yeah.
Which is important.
Oh, for sure.
That's important. But if you truly want your business to be able to thrive, you have to have that understanding of how money is coming in, how money is allocated, and how money is going out. And most people, that goes over their head. Definitely
goes over their head.
Oh, yeah.
So I know we can't name names here. We can't name any names. But when you think about some of the your big moments in this whole influencer space, so whether it was a big deal that you helped a client close, whether it was a big, moment out in public, what's kind of one of your fondest influencer moments or memories?
I think it's two. I had a client who was tapped when Beyonce was launching her line. And because he's in the beauty space.
Oh, I love that.
And I just love being a part of it because of the excitement.
Okay.
To see that he was
I know he was on cloud 100.
On cloud 1,000.
Right.
And he was invited to the concert. He got to meet with Miss Knowles,
right,
with Miss Tina Knowles.
Right.
And he, got a personalized message from Beyonce.
I love that.
So it was just such a big moment. And I think seeing him and how he works and how he was excited to be noticed, right? Because they handpicked all of these stylists.
That's dope.
To say, you are the ones that we want to kind of speak for and, promote this brand. So I would say that's one of them. And, again, for most people who know me and know DeArea, they know that I represent her. I think that one of the most surreal moments for me was the first time we're in the mall.
Right.
And it is like these people that recognize
right.
her. And it's like oh my God. And it's
right.
like,
who y'all talking about?
Exactly.
right.
So it's definitely, those moments with the influencers, just because it's like with a certain level of celebrity,
right.
you expect it. But that was also what allowed me to see, like, they are a level of celebrity.
Oh, for sure.
Influencers are a level of celebrity.
No
but
question.
Also the impact. DeArea just had a pop-up in New York.
Which was crazy.
And
the people wrapped around the building.
Yes.
Literally waiting.
Yes. But not only that, to see impact and the number of people that came in to say, hey, your videos helped me through a hard time.
I love that.
Or, the way that you've done X, Y, or Z has been motivation to me.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about young kids.
No.
It was older people that were
right.
out there.
For sure.
So
yes.
knowing and being a part of those moments have definitely, reminded me, like, hey, what you do behind the scenes that allows them to do what they do in front of the camera,
right?
It plays a big role.
Definitely plays a big role. So a couple things I was just thinking about. What is one of my most memorable moments with DeArea? I will never forget when she was on tour. And I was like, why are people standing in line to meet her? What is happening right now? Tears. I mean, yeah. I'm just like, made T-shirt. I'm like, this is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but again, it wasn't connecting with me. I'm like, this girl does not sing. She does not act. But just this true, authentic connection.
That's what it is.
That she had, and her fans love her. So it's so amazing to witness that. One thing I just want to go back to very quickly before we wrap. You just talked about your influencer who was selected by Beyonce, obviously a huge moment. And you talked about how hard he worked. I think there's a disconnect with people don't realize how much work it is. Yes. I think people just think it's just cute and it's fun. The commitment is real. It is real work.
And when I tell you,
describe the work.
I love working with him.
Okay.
Because when we talk about business, like I'm talking about unmatched. From doing the research to being able to have the intelligent conversations when it comes to negotiating, all of the things and again, for the average person who would look at him and be like, oh, he's a stylist, right? And they would think that the business side of it would be of no interest, but he takes an interest in all of that.
Love that.
Which again, when you're working with those types of clients, you get motivated because you're almost like, hey, you're working hard. I want to work just as hard for you versus the people that's kind of like, you lazy and I can't put in more work than you're putting in. But when I tell you prepared,
right.
prepared.
Yeah. Describe that though, because when people want to make the money, but I don't think people are connecting it to the work. Can you kind of describe not just, it's kind of like your ideal client, but also what it takes to win as an influencer. Not just because you're cute and, people want to see what you got on. Like, what's the work commitment like?
He is one of those people that if we have a meeting, he will have touch base with me the morning of the meeting just to say, hey, just reminding you that we have this meeting. Here are my notes. Here are my thoughts. Even so much so when we draft contracts or we receive contracts, he will go through and read the contracts line by line in order to say, okay, Keisha, here are my thoughts on this. What are your thoughts? Let's talk through it, right? Where I have a lot of clients that they don't read
at all. Mm-hmm.
Even if where he is looking at, which are the hot spots, how much am I making? What am I obligated to do? Who owns it? Those are all things that he's coming back to the table and he's proposing, like, this is the way that I would like this to happen. That's the type of work that I'm talking about that he's doing. He has the hunger to understand it for himself, which then puts him in a different position because now people can't tell him anything. He is actually doing the work, so he knows, oh, these are the things that are in these contracts. This is what I'm seeing as, a theme, or I'm seeing quite frequently, so I know what is normal versus not.
Right.
So that work comes from studying, doing research, the product development,
Love that.
all of the business things that most entrepreneurs are having to do. He is doing the work.
Right. So what I hear you saying, he's not behaving as an influencer. He's essentially behaving as a CEO or an entrepreneur, which is a whole different energy. Last thing I want you to address is when we talk, obviously you're an influencer because you're posting, you're creating and you're posting. Can you kind of describe what that commitment is? Because I've seen and I've worked with people who will not do the work. They want to make the money now. But you are begging, please create, please post. I have seen people lose out on millions of dollars because they will not do the work. Describe what that creating, posting can kind of look like so people understand the commitment.
I think one of the best examples that was given is the same way that if you watch a TV show, and you know that TV show comes on Sundays at 8. The consistency is what people are looking for. When you create that fan base and you have that consistency, people know where to find you, when. Because it's also like we have a short attention span now thanks to social media. So if you're not posting consistently, then people are going to go find something else to watch. And they may or may not think to come back to you, contingent upon how locked in they are with you.
Right.
But again, entertainment has always been at the forefront of people's lives. So if you're not entertaining them, they're going to find somebody else or something else that will. So that dedication to say like, hey, I'm going to post once a week or twice a week, even when you think about your podcast. If you did a podcast and people are like, well, I guess another episode going to come out one day, then you lose that audience, you lose that engagement.
For sure.
And sometimes when you lose people, you can't get them back. So you have to be consistent in whatever it is that you are posting so that people know what to expect from you.
Yeah. And what I also hear you saying is be committed to the schedule. Like what days are the successful people I know, they are creating on certain days. They have structure. People just want to show up and be cute and flow. Business doesn't work that way. It does not work. Those corporations have deadlines. They have expectations.
Oh, yes.
You want the check, you have to give them exactly what they're looking for. So it's work, y'all. I just want y'all to know it's work.
No, it is. It is work. It is consistency. And sometimes it's perseverance because you may do the work for a while before the income matches the work.
Say that.
And sometimes people, they tap out when it's right around the corner because it didn't come as easy as they thought it came for somebody else.
And who said that was ever true?
And that's why, the mind.
Right.
The mind. And that's why I tell people, just because you feel it don't mean it's true.
Right.
And again, that whole comparing somebody else's journey to yours and having the expectation like, you don't know all the nuances and the details as to why their story turned out the way that it did.
Right.
But, that element, like you gotta do the work and stay the course.
You have to be consistent. So before we wrap, any other pieces of advice, anything else you want to share in the context of this whole influencer world?
Ooh, yeah, I think that if you are new to the influencer space, make sure that you understand the landscape. And make sure that how you monetize this influencer platform is the right way for you, right? And what I mean when I say that is like a lot of people are trying to replicate what has been done, but what's been done may not, in a lot of ways it's not working anymore. So you have to be able to understand like how you're coming into this space and what your ultimate goal is because, you have a lot of people who are, they become disappointed just because they expect for it to look like it did 10 years ago. And that's just not what it is. So understand how you're using it and what the purpose of you using it is for. Because a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm just going to do this so I can X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But if you don't have, like that understanding of, one, the landscape of where it is now, who your audience is, and how you're speaking to your audience, then you waste a lot of time.
Wasting a lot of time. Time is money.
All day.
So thank you, Keisha Perry Walker. Just one last thing. I want you to fill in the blank for me. If you blank, you will thank me later. If people what? They will thank Keisha Perry Walker later.
I would say if you take the time to truly learn the craft and get the right team around you, you'll thank me later.
I know that's right. It takes both now. A little knowledge and a team.
Oh, yeah.
You're definitely going to take both. Thank you for coming today.
Of course.
Thank you
Thanks
for showing.
having me.
Yeah, and it's just been a journey working with you in this influencer space. I was like, Keisha's crazy. What is she talking about? These people can't make money doing this. I'm like, Lord, people can make money doing this. What is happening right
good
now?
Money.
Oh my God. I'm like, is this a real thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for opening my eyes. So if you want to follow Keisha, her website, Perry Law Group, correct?
Yes.
PerryLawGroup.com. She's on LinkedIn under her name, Keisha Perry Walker, Instagram, Keisha Perry ESQ. And so thank y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Thank Me Later Show with me, your host, Jini Thornton. And you can engage with us in our community. Please like and share. You know someone who, out here wants to be an influencer. Very important that we share this really important information. Where are you going to get this level of legal help, y'all? Okay? For free. Now, if you call her, it ain't going to be free, though. Let me just go ahead and tell you that. Let me go ahead and tell you that right now. So thank you again for coming, Keisha, and I'll see y'all next episode.